Well, hon, you ready?
All set, my love. Please envelop this entity so completely in love that all needs, wants, and desires are chosen.
And greetings.
Greetings, wonders.
Greetings, Maggie.
Would you please go to whom, to where, and to when you are directed? Would you please locate your facilitator, Maggie McGoffin Gadat, on March 20th, 2007?
Yes, we have you.
We are gathered here at 8361 11th Line, RR number 2 in the town of Thornton in the province of Ontario, to do a reading for the Wonders Hour radio show. May we begin?
Please?
Thank you, Wonders. Could you please comment on the third defining statement, I am limitless, my choices reflect my limitlessness?
Yes.
Yes. Would you?
Yeah.
Will you?
Yes.
Thank you.
But may we ask you a question?
Yes.
How limitless are you?
I'm limitless, but I think my fears keep me limited in a lot of ways.
Yes, but do you know that you're limitless, or is this just something idea you have in your head?
It's an idea that I have in my head.
Yes. You see, what most people do when they hear this particular statement, which is, by the way, is a statement that, again, defines existence. A statement of beingness, if you want to call it that. Most people have a concept of what it means to be limitless, in the sense that they conceptualize it in their minds. But the very fact that they conceptualize a statement in their minds means that they are limited, because the mind is limited. So when they say to themselves, I am limitless, they think in terms of something that they are not. They think in terms of something bigger, better than they are. And so they always look to strive to become bigger and better to them than who they are. And they forget to add in the last part, which is, my choices reflect my limitlessness. Now, that could mean on a number of occasions for different interpretations. For example, you could say, my choices reflect my limitless means quite simply that by what I choose, I show how limited I am. But that's not what we said. We said the choices reflect your limitlessness. So then you have to go back to the drawing board. You see?
Yes.
We were adjusting this one's body.
Ah.
So now, in moving to my choices reflect my limitlessness, another interpretation could be that every choice that you make is an expression of how limitless you are. Not, and when we say how limitless you are, not on the basis of limits, but rather on the basis of limitlessness. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So every choice you make comes from your limitlessness, not from your limits. If you were limited, you wouldn't make that choice. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be viewed in a number of different ways, couldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And interpreted in a number of different ways. Now, what's the benefit, for example, of interpreting it the way most of humankind does, which is that, in effect, they are limited beings existing in a limited reality, looking to express themselves in a limitless way in order to become more, better, greater than what they are. What's the benefit of that?
They're always striving towards something, and they don't have to make a choice in the moment.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they can push to become better. And it doesn't matter what they choose, because whatever they choose in the moment has no material or no real benefit to what they are already thinking about choosing in the next moment. So in effect, their minds are constantly into the future, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And also into the past.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the future is chosen based on the past. So the mind is constantly looking to the past, moving into the future, looking in the past, moving to the future, looking in the past, moving into the future, saying to itself, there you go, look and see how limitless I am. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm choosing to express, to change my limits, to become less limited. Do you see?
Yes.
So they see limitlessness as less limited,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a conundrum if you think about it. You see?
Yeah.
So the resultant is they spend a great deal of time existing in an illusion that has no basis of the reality on which they exist. It's an illusion that judges them so completely that whatever they are cannot be sufficient. So, if they see this statement as a reflection of limits, then they cannot possibly know themselves as sufficient. Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting how that worked out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
There's that second defining statement.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think?
Yeah.
So there you are, the average human being, thinking to themselves that they are really just a limited being with a whole pile of limits, and they would like to change them and grow and become better and better individuals, but the better means that they have basically different limits or less limits. Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And so every choice they make is a choice towards the future, isn't it? It's
Yes.
a choice to anticipate what's coming. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
A choice to express the possibilities of changes. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. In effect, if humans stay with that, they will eventually, and eventually is a long, long ways away, we assure you, but they will eventually come to a different understanding of this particular statement. You see?
Mm-hmm.
But what if? Here's the what if. What if, instead of looking at this statement as a reflection of your limits, you were to look at it as that your beingness is limitless. In other words, who you are is limitless, and every choice you make comes from that limitlessness. Every thought, every action, every word, every concept you create, every creation, every destruction comes from your limitlessness. What do you think of that idea?
I think it's very different, very empowering, very powerful.
How is it empowering for you?
It's empowering because you're working from you realize that you are limitless, and that's where your choices come from, as opposed to always looking at the limits or
Yes.
where you have to
And
go.
we're not saying here that the choices you're making has to be judged. And you can say to yourself, well,
Yeah.
it comes from my limitlessness, but look at that. I made that choice, and obviously that's not a limitless choice because that's really a pretty shitty choice. It was really low. It was very limited. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we're saying, is it?
No.
We're saying you chose to put yourself in an abusive relationship. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to denigrate yourself. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to harm yourself. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to love yourself. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to and accept the abundance of the universe. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to get a new job. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to leave your job. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to get angry. What a limitless choice that was. You chose to laugh. What a limitless choice that was. Now you get the point?
Mm-hmm. Is it perception then, Wonders? Because I can see where a lot of them you would say, what a limitless choice, but I could see where a lot of people would say, being abused doesn't seem limitless to me.
Well, of course it's limitless. It's limitless in that were you not limitless, you wouldn't be able to make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be the wherewithal to draw from to put yourself there. Think about it. For you to put yourself into an abusive situation
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to be harmed or hurt or hit or whatever you're going to do,
Yeah.
you see?
Mm-hmm.
Either physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual abuse, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have to come from a limitless perspective because that's the only perspective that would allow you that choice. Because that perspective will say to you, you can choose that and still be limitless.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you were limited, if you saw this particular statement as a statement, a reflection of your limits, if you were a limited individual, why would you ever put yourself in that situation when you don't have enough to be there?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. If you see yourself as a limited being, would you ever consciously choose, to put yourself in a circumstance that would draw from the little bit that you have that you describe yourself as?